I heard someone talk at a workshop, and they said, science tells us what we can do, but society tells us what we're allowed to do. My name is Caspar Donnison, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher, which is what you do after a PhD at the University of Southampton in the UK, and also at the University of California, Davis in the United States. So I'm kind of unusual, split between two universities. So one thing that I look at in the IDRIC project is how we can grow more what are called bioenergy crops, fast-growing trees, fast-growing grasses. And I'm working in IDRIC to see where those fast-growing grasses and trees can be used in industrial processes to replace coal and oil and gas. Yeah, good question. And it's important to distinguish that the bioenergy that we look at is quite different to a sort of forest you might see if you go out for a walk at the weekend. Trees that could be tens, maybe hundreds of years old. What we look at is what's sometimes called agroforestry. This is really fast-growing trees that we can breed to bring out certain traits that make them particularly fast-growing, particularly high-yielding. When it's harvested, that biomass material is taken to a facility where it can be burnt for energy, or it can be turned into a liquid fuel, or it can be gasified as well. The idea is that we're not touching the natural ecosystems, forests that have been there for a long time, where there's important biodiversity. We're minimizing the use of land, we're maximizing the yields that we can get, and that's important so that we can be delivering these fuels to industrial processes such as the clusters within IDRIC. Yeah, well, and this almost seems like a good time to mention that my first degree was actually in politics with philosophy and economics. So I started off being very interested in politics, and when I started that degree in politics, I became very interested in climate change because I realized that climate change is this problem that really has multiple disciplines that are relevant to it. It's not just about the engineering or the natural science. There's a lot of other disciplines, including politics, that are very relevant to finding solutions to the problem of climate change. That I was really lucky to grow up in a really beautiful part of the country, West Wales. And that then meant that when I sort of came across the topic of climate change and environmental damage, I definitely had this strong connection to where I'd grown up, and definitely felt a desire to do what I could to protect the beauty that we have in the environment and the natural world. And that's sort of how this interest in climate change and the environment was sort of connected to this interest in philosophy, politics, and economics, thinking about how we can find solutions to these problems and protect the world we have. So there was one question from the school children that caught my eye. And the question was, do you ask permission from the public for your work? In my PhD, when I was studying this technologies around bioenergy, I heard someone talk at a workshop, and they said, science tells us what we can do, but society tells us what we're allowed to do. And I really liked how it summarizes this challenge that we can come up with new technologies, but ultimately they have to be chosen and accepted by the public. Otherwise, they're no use to dealing with problems like climate change. We can't afford to be trying to develop new technologies without also bringing the public with us, without also getting their feedback and their input on what are the best ways, the best approaches to decarbonize. I think the highlight of the IDRIC project for me has been finding a way to be useful and helpful to industry. Because the reason I went into my PhD was I really wanted to develop skills that can help us deal with the problem of climate change. And IDRIC gave this opportunity to work with companies that are very ambitious with decarbonisation, companies that really are committed to finding ways of doing what they're doing much more sustainably. And it feels like I'm sort of a small part of this overall project that's just helping give better information to industry, guiding their decision making, and feeling a part of the solution to tackling climate change.